Chapter 2. 21 days ago, the morning before the blackout, the morning my dad left town, I woke to the sound of him pounding out his usual rhythm on my bedroom door. It sounded like a marching band was about to bust in. I winced, groaning at the noise, flat on my stomach, arm hanging over the side of the mattress, pillow gone to who knows where. The door swung open and my dad leaned in, bringing with him the familiar scent of bar soap mixed with his aftershave. "I'm leaving in 15 minutes," he said, tapping the wall to stress this point. "Stuart's already up." He stopped, his eyebrows knitting together in confusion as he took in the strange blue tint lighting my room. "What is that doing up there?" I craned to look back at the flag I'd tacked up over my blinds the night before, cobalt blue with an emblem in the upper left corner. At least, it'd be in the upper left corner if the flag weren't hanging sideways. Instead, it was in the bottom left corner. A silver star, 2 sprigs of green sagebrush, a scroll with the words "Battle Born" written in small black letters. "Take that down, John. Our state flag is not a curtain. I found it in a box in the garage." "I don't care. Take it down." He didn't sound mad exactly, just kind of frustrated or disappointed. I sighed and collapsed back down into my mattress, pressing my palms into my eye sockets. "I didn't know it was a big deal," I said, "but my dad isn't the type to stick around and listen to excuses." "Get a move on, John," he called back, already halfway down the hallway. I climbed out of bed and shut my bedroom door before dragging the metal chair from my desk to the window. "Apparently," I mumbled, wriggling out the pushpins, "I'm supposed to know every random thing about flags." I folded up the flags as carefully as I knew how and set it on my desk next to a plate of dried up old pizza. Then I changed into a pair of jeans I picked up off the floor and grabbed the least wrinkly t-shirt I could find in my drawer. In the kitchen, Dad was eating a bowl of grape nut cereal over the sink, an open canister of sugar on the counter beside him with the spoon handle sticking out. I avoided looking at him directly. Maybe I didn't think it was a big deal to turn our state flag into a curtain for my bedroom window, but Dad did. And there was nothing worse than the feeling that I'd disappointed him. "Where's Stu?" I asked on my way to the cupboard. Just then, a rumbling sound started up out back, a lawnmower engine turning over. "He wanted to get it over with," my dad said, with a shrug in his voice. I rolled my eyes, took down a cereal bowl. That drought-resistant stuff my dad called grass wasn't exactly growing out of control. "It's not even 7 a.m., I pointed out. "Best time of the day to get something over with, don't you think?" What I thought was, Stuart is a suck-up. But I didn't tell my dad that. I got a spoon from the drawer and went around to sit at the breakfast bar facing the sink. I was about to grab for the box of grape nuts. The stuff tasted like cardboard, but if you dumped a bunch of sugar on top, it wasn't so bad. But froze when I spotted what was sitting next to it, a number 10 can of powdered milk. I dropped my arm. "Great. We're out of milk again," I said matter-of-factly. My dad's eyes shifted toward me, then to the can of powdered milk. "That is milk. It's disgusting. You're not mixing it right. Put a little more sugar in it. Why can't you just get real milk?" He raised an eyebrow at me. "This is real milk. But look," he continued before I could keep carrying on about it, "I'll grab a jug of milk for you in Alamo on my way home." "So 3 days from now?" I said, folding my arms on the breakfast bar, pushing them forward so I could rock back and balance the bar stool on 2 legs, something that I knew drives my dad nuts. He dropped his bowl in the sink, ran the faucet. "I'm sure the Yardleys have milk in their fridge. You could be drinking it by breakfast time tomorrow." "Can't wait." I slid my unused bowl and spoon across the countertop, and my dad put them back in the cabinet and drawer without missing a beat. "What about our bikes?" "I promise I'll get the parts we need and we'll fix them when I get back." "So we have to walk to the Yardleys?" "It won't kill you, John." Over the lawnmower rumble out back, I could hear Stu belling out lyrics to an old Rush song, listening to Dad's playlist on that ancient iPod. Total suck-up. "Remember," my dad said, starting his usual instructions, "the Yardleys are looking out for you, but they aren't your babysitters, all right? Not our babysitters. Got it. No lazing around their place in the morning. Clean up after yourselves and come home to take care of your chores here." I pushed my stool back farther, resting my chin on my arms. I watched my dad move around the kitchen, clearing off countertops, wiping loose sugar into the sink, his suntanned forearms dark against the rolled sleeves of his crisp white button down. Clipped to his front pocket, his Eli Granite Company work badge. I tried to imagine him lazing around anywhere, You need to take care of that room of yours, too, he added, returning the powdered milk to the top shelf of the pantry. I don't want it to look like that when I get back. I haven't seen your bedroom floor in so long, I can't even remember what it looks like. Brown carpet, I reminded him. Yeah, well, I want to see the brown carpet. He came around the breakfast bar and I sat up, letting the stool drop down on all four legs. I twisted to face him but didn't raise my eyes. The hum of the lawnmower was growing fainter outside, Stu already working his way to the outer edge of our yard. You know, he said, his calloused hands low on his hips, your mom hated powdered milk. 5 years and I couldn't get her to come around to it. I can't guess why, I said dryly, though I always liked when he talked about my mom, the way his voice went kind of soft. I was so little when she died. My only memories of her were his memories of her. Watch over your brother, all right, he said, getting back to it. I stared at the knot of his thin tie. Don't I always? He sighed. John, I know I've been gone a lot lately. 4th work trip in less than 2 months. But this job will be over soon, and then I won't be traveling so much. I'll be working out on site in Ely by the end of August. The end of summer, you mean? We've got that trip planned with the Brightons before school starts up again. It's not like we have nothing to look forward to. Stu and I were excited about the trip, Stu especially. Camping with Jess, hiking the Narrows in Zion National Park, but there was no way I was going to admit that to him now. John, my dad said again, and this time he waited so long that I finally lifted my eyes to meet his. Dark eyes, like mine, like my brother's. You just can't use it as a curtain, he said, talking about that flag again. Dad, I know. But if you want to hang it properly, emblem upright, battle born, where you can actually read it. I dropped my eyes. He closed the short distance between us, and I felt the weight of his hand on my shoulder. I think it looked pretty good on your bedroom wall, he said, gripping the back of my neck, pulling my head to his chest. It was just a flag. I didn't care. Wasn't even sure I wanted it in my room anymore. But for just a few seconds, I let him hold my head there, listening to his strong heartbeat against my ear. Door to door, it was only about a mile's walk to the Yardley's place. We left our house around sunset after an exciting day of chores, arguing over the Xbox and playing horse on the driveway until we couldn't stand the heat. I still hadn't gotten around to cleaning my room. Mr. Yardley answered the door with his 1-year-old baby, Freddie, on his hip, and cradled in his other arm a big bowl of microwave popcorn for the movie marathon we planned. Finally, he said, I thought you guys would never get here. Stuart flashed me an I told you so look. John made us wait, he said, pushing past me with that overstuffed pillow of his. They aren't our babysitters, Stu, I called after him, as if I weren't only following Dad's instructions. Mr. Yardley raised an eyebrow at that, the corner of his mouth tugging up in a grin. Definitely not babysitters. We walked here, I said, closing the door on my way in. That's what took so long. Bike still out of commission? I could have picked you up. It's fine. My dad was technically right. It didn't kill me. Mr. Yardley laughed, giving Freddie a little bounce to stop him from fussing. I'm guessing Jim gave you his personal responsibility lecture before he left. Pretty much, I said. The morning conversation with my dad replayed in my mind, and I couldn't help but add, he expects too much from me sometimes. Could be, Mr. Yardley said, or maybe he's just got a knack for knowing what you're capable of before you even know it yourself. I stopped short of rolling my eyes, and half a grin slid onto Mr. Yardley's face. Okay, don't give me that look. Your only responsibility tonight is to eat a lot of popcorn. That I can do, I said, following him to the back of the house, making faces at Freddie, who pulled his 2 fingers out of his mouth long enough to make a J sound, to babble a J sound. John, I pronounced for him. He rewarded me with a slobbery grin, clapping his chubby hands before plugging his fingers back into his mouth. Their house was set up like a mirror image of ours, 1 story, but with the bedrooms in the front and the kitchen open to the great big family room in the back. They had this old sectional that took up half their family room, so soft and comfortable you could barely sit on it without sinking down and drifting off to sleep. Davis, why are you eating that right before my dinner is ready? Mrs. Yardley said from the kitchen. She dropped the towel she'd been drying her hands with, marched over, and wrested the bowl of popcorn out of Mr. Yardley's grip. I have room for both, he said teasingly, grabbing half a handful before she could get it completely out of reach. She sort of smiled and rolled her eyes at the same time. Then she looked at me and said, I've been craving homemade ice cream for weeks. My eyebrows went up. Oh, yeah? I was trying not to stare at her belly. She looked about ready to pop open with that second baby. Davis finally got me one of those old-fashioned ice cream makers. Only, she added under breath, it just looks old-fashioned. It has a motor that does all the work. Come see. So while Mr. Yardley set up the Blu-ray player for our marathon and Stu stacked wooden blocks on the family room rug for Freddie to knock over, I went into the kitchen to see this ice cream maker. It looked like a giant wooden bucket, but inside was a stainless steel cylinder, tall and skinny, with a motor on top that churned the ice cream inside. The space between the cylinder and the bucket was packed with melting ice. You have to sprinkle rock salt on the ice to make it melt. That's what lowers the freezing temperature. Can you smell it? Vanilla and fresh strawberry. It smells amazing, I said, nodding. But all I could really smell was that plate of chicken, fresh off the grill, sitting on the kitchen island, and the baked potatoes in the oven. They were making my mouth water. This part was the best part about staying over at the Yardleys. Dad had been so busy with work lately, he hadn't had much time for summer barbecues. The oven timer beeped, and Mrs. Yardley was chopping chives now, so I grabbed the oven mitts off the counter and pulled out the potatoes. They were the biggest, fluffiest looking things I'd ever seen. Golden brown jackets glistening with butter and sprinkled with coarse salt. I couldn't really blame Stu for being mad that I made us wait. Later that night, after Mrs. Yardley put Freddie to bed, we stretched out on this sectional for a movie marathon. All the lights out, wrapped in blankets, eating popcorn even though we were already stuffed. My eyelids were just starting to go heavy when suddenly the TV blinked out, along with everything else. It's weird, but you never notice how much noise electricity generates until everything shuts off at the exact same time. And I'm not talking about the big stuff, like a movie blaring on the television or the second round of popcorn popping in the microwave. I'm talking about the stuff in the background, the stuff you didn't even realize was making so much noise. The whirl of an overhead fan, the whoosh of an air conditioner, the soft buzz of a refrigerator. Whirl, whoosh, buzz, all coming to a stop at once, creating the most complete silence you've ever heard. Everyone sort of groaned, and Mr. Yardley jumped up from the couch. Don't panic, I just got new flashlights. These were good flashlights, the kind that felt heavy in your hand and had a strong beam, not like those self-powered flashlights my dad had. While Mrs. Yardley checked on Freddie and Mr. Yardley went to check the circuit breaker, Stu held the flashlight under his chin and made zombie noises. I rolled my eyes and bit the inside of my cheek to keep from smiling. Okay, it's not a trip switch, Mr. Yardley called from the entry. Looks like the power is out everywhere. Out on the front porch, it was a typical warm summer night. Micro swarms of tiny winged bugs whispered by. A breeze rustled the branches of the tall mesquites lining the Yardley's property, but it also seemed pretty different somehow. This is pretty cool, Stu said, leaning on the porch railing and looking up at the sky. Turn off your flashlight, Mr. Yardley said. This is what zero light pollution looks like. The houses in and around Lund didn't put out a ton of light. Not like the lights of a big city, but I'd never seen it so dark. There was no moon out, just an explosion of stars in the sky, all of them varying in brightness and size and even color. Boys, help me move this out onto the grass, Mr. Yardley said, taking one side of their standalone porch swing. We got it down the porch steps, set it in the middle of the lawn, and took off the canopy so we could see the whole sky. Mrs. Yardley came out with bowls of that homemade ice cream on a tray, her flashlight tucked under her arm. I got it, I said, jumping up to help her with the tray. Look what we have a front row seat to, Lizzie, Mr. Yardley said, motioning up to the sky. This is better than Blu-ray. Stu threw his arms out as if presenting the sky to Mrs. Yardley. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Mrs. Yardley laughed, taking in the sight with her head tilted up. One hand braced against her lower back, the other cradling her stomach. It's pretty incredible, she agreed. We ate melting ice cream under all those stars, squished together on that porch swing, talking and telling stories and laughing until we sometimes couldn't breathe. We forgot all about our movie marathon, forgot all about the power being out. It was a peaceful summer night. It was the last time I remember feeling completely at ease.